information, and it would allow the government to supply financial institutions with personal information if that information is useful for money laundering and terrorist financing purposes. These provisions were the reason that Conservatives opposed the Liberals' attempt at gaining sweeping powers and warrantless access to violate Canadians' civil liberties. Let's be clear, the Liberals' solution to the problems they created over the last 10 years was to grant them more power. Upon questioning the Privacy Commissioner, he confirmed that the Liberals didn't even consult him when trying to grant themselves sweeping new powers to access Canadians' personal information from service providers like banks and telecoms without a warrant. Madam Speaker, the good news is that Conservatives have forced the Liberals to back down from Bill C-2, which clearly violates Canadians' individual freedoms and privacy. Conservatives believe that law-abiding Canadians should not lose their liberty to pay for the failures of the Liberals on borders and immigration. That brings us to the debate today. The Liberals introduced C-12, which took many of the parts of C-2 that Conservatives fought to have removed out. The parts of the bill that remain, which we are discussing today, begin to take steps on addressing the many issues that have seen nothing but inaction from this government over the past 10 years. Although there are provisions for the CBSA laid out, let's talk about the very real challenge the CBSA is facing that the Liberals are not addressing with this bill. They promised to hire 1,000 new CBSA personnel, though according to the Public Safety Minister, it's not his job to hire them, which would explain why the Liberals have waited 10 years to take measures on border security. 99% of all shipping containers are not currently scanned to see what's inside. Where is the plan to purchase and deploy these tools to crack down on the amount of smuggling that is happening through our ports? Our brave men and women who work at the CBSA protect the front line of our nation's defense. They deserve real, meaningful action from the government to help them and equip them with the tools they need to help keep Canadians safe. They need action from their government. Conservatives believe in the important work that they do, and we will continue to offer solutions and clearly define measures to assist them in doing the work of keeping our border secure. Another part of the bill this bill seeks to address fentanyl precursor chemicals that are being used to manufacture fentanyl here in Canada. Though we welcome any efforts to crack down on the drug epidemic facing our communities, it seems the Liberals are more content with simply blaming the chemicals and not the criminals who manufacture and distribute deadly fentanyl onto our streets. Of all apparent opioid toxicity deaths from January to June of 2024, 79% involved fentanyl. The amount of emergency room visits for opioid-related poisonings have more than doubled since 2018. Madam Speaker, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl is enough to be a lethal dose and take someone's life. Dealing fentanyl should be punished the same as murder because it is effectively murder. If a fentanyl kingpin traffics just 40 milligrams, it is enough to kill 20 people. There needs to be serious deterrence, not simply banning the ingredients that make the illegal drug they're selling to vulnerable Canadians. And the Liberals continue to push for what they call safe consumption sites near schools. At the Health Committee, the Conservative member from Dauphin-Swan River, Nipawin, and Shadow Minister for Health called on the Liberals to shut down fentanyl consumption sites next to children. However, the Liberal minister refused to rule out approving more consumption sites next to schools and daycares, despite acknowledging they are repositories for rampant fentanyl usage. This bill does not meaningfully look to defend the victims of the fentanyl crisis either. Since the Liberals took office, all violent crime is up 50% from 2015 to 2023. More laundering and organized crime have found a home in Canada. The solution the leaders proposed in C-2, give them sweeping powers to spy on individual Canadians. Violent crime is up, organized crime is up, drug trafficking is up. Even if you are caught by the Liberal justice system, house arrest is still permissible for some of the most serious offenses. While this government has allowed violent crime to rise all across this country, they allow violent offenders out on bail or house arrest so they can return to the very community they are a danger to. For years, Conservatives have been proposing measures to crack down on criminals and to put the charter rights of victims ahead of their abusers. Part 11 of the bill amends the Sex Offender Information Registration Act and Customs Act, which will allow for greater accuracy in reporting, tracking, and investigating sex offenders. These are welcome changes that the Conservatives have been advocating on for years, and they are long overdue. However, the consistent theme the Liberals have presented to Canadians throughout both C-2 and now C-12 is that they are not willing to be held responsible for the last 10 years they have been in government. We hear it often, Madam Speaker. While they would have Canadians believe, while the Liberals would have Canadians believe that they are a new government, just now learning of these problems, they are not. They have been in power for 10 years and are responsible for this mess. And giving them more power to fix it is not the answer. One thing is very clear, Madam Speaker. Only Conservatives will continue to stand up for Canadians' individual freedoms and privacy. In closing, only Conservatives will continue to advocate on behalf of Canadians. We will examine this bill thoroughly to ensure that the Liberals don't try to sneak in measures that breach law-abiding Canadians' privacy rights. Thank you, Madam